Well, hello there, stamping friends. Sorry for the delay. This is Traci Raether from Plum Crazy Stamping, and we're together today on Friday, September 5th, for our monthly paper pumpkin. So I'm sorry for those of you that have been waiting, and if you're new and coming aboard, please use the comments to sign in and let me know who you are and where you're watching from. And if you're on YouTube, you'll need to do that in your Google account or your YouTube account and then use the comments and sign in. So today, as I said, is our monthly paper pumpkin. I moved it from what usually would have been Wednesday because we did the launch of our new mini catalog. And I am still working on tallying up all of the answers that people provided for the scavenger hunt so that I can send out some free card kits. So just keep an eye on my business page and I will post the winners and then I will contact folks and get those card kits in the mail. Anyway, let's hop on and get going on our paper pumpkin workshop. And so, Betty, good afternoon. I hope you're having a great afternoon. Let me just pull in my paper pumpkin box here. And this is our monthly subscription program that basically costs $27 a month. You can order it as you go, month by month, or you can subscribe to it for 3 months, 6 months, or 12 months. And it's like getting a gift every month and projects that are all ready for you to enjoy and just do the stamping because they have everything included. They have instructions. You know, you open this up, it's like a present and wrapped in tissue paper, which I can show you kind of is at the bottom of this. And here, let me make the screen a little bit bigger so you can see what we're looking at together. This month, there were 2 stamp sets. So this is the alternative stamp set, and then this is the stamp set for use with the kit itself. The free stamping spot was Secret Sea. Beautiful color. We had linen thread. We had mini dimensionals that came as a part of this kit. These are the pretty envelopes that came. So this is a set that is designed to make 9 cards. What we're going to do with it today is I'm actually going to make 3 project cards, and then we're going to take the other 2 cards of each type and double them and make 4 cards instead of just 2. And as I said, each kit comes with full instructions, so you can see these are the 9 cards intended with 9 different envelopes. When we open this up, it tells us all the different parts and pieces that are in the kit and how to be putting them, I guess, separating them out into the different projects. On the back, it tells you all the things that are in the kit, so you can kind of check, make sure you have everything. Coordinated colors are identified, and that's what I use when I decide what the alternatives will look like. If you happen to miss a workshop like this that goes through how to make this kit, there's a QR code here that you can use to get those video instructions from Stampin' Up. And there's also every 3 months a die set that is designed for 3 different project kits, and kind of just something you can use as you're maybe either adding to the projects themselves as described or to use in your alternative cards. Okay, so today I'm going to take this card by card, and then we're going to make a kit the way they're suggesting, and then we're going to take the next card, and I'm going to show you how to double and get more out of that. And then we'll have 5 cards from each set of 3. Okay. And then I'm going to do that for the next card and the next card. So we're going to get started, though. We're going to start with project number 2 because there's a little bit more to cutting this one. So I thought we'd get that done. And then we might do some of our stamping all together to just save time. So let me introduce you first to the kit project as it's described. So this is, like I said, project number 2. And let me make sure I have everything out of the envelope. So we have the envelope I'm just going to set to the side. This is the card base, and it's already printed on. And I'm just going to take my bone folder here and just crease that nice score line, which is already there. And then the design itself, there's a little stamping that we're going to do. So I'm going to get out my Secret C, and I'm going to grab the stamps that I need. And let's see, I need a good friends are hard to find. I'm so glad so glad we found each other. That must be on this one. This is so nice with the 2 stamp sets. Yeah, here we go with this sentiment. I'm just going to put that on a block. And this is about stamping the inside of this card. Use my grid lines here to just help me make sure this is straight. As much as I can try to do with getting things straight right off the bat really helps. And then we have some stamping to do actually on the card front, and we have stamping to do on the sentiment. So we'll go ahead and do all of that together. So I need the For You. Once again, I'll just line that up on here. All right, let's do that first. That's so easy. Okay, we've got that part done. Slide that off to the side here. Now we're going to do some accent actually on the front of this. And we're going to take, oops, where's the other stamp? There it is. This is one of those accents. And like I told you many times is I love how they add these extra things that we can just add a little extra pizzazz on our cards, right? So we're going to go to the side on this one. And then we're going to come from the other side. Stamp that. Now don't worry about what you're seeing in the middle. That's going to get covered up. And we want to stamp now inside the card. Let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to put the sentiment in first. And then we're going to use the flowers that we have to just frame this inside our card. Gosh, I almost dropped it. So we've got that on one side. And then on the other. Doesn't that make that a nice inside to the card? All right, so now we can go back and assemble our card. And these are all parts and pieces that I need to put adhesive on. And what's nice is the diagram even shows you when you have the white circles, these are all being put on the different die cut pieces with dimensionals to attach all of these. So I'm just going to turn these all upside down right here on my desktop. I'm going to grab my dimensionals, kind of 2 different sizes here, depending upon what I'm doing. So I supplement what is in the kit with some of my larger ones when I think that'll work a little better. So we've got the first purse, then we've got some of these flowers. Now I'm going to need to switch to the smaller dimensionals. And actually, to use the handle here, I'm going to trim the edge of my mini dimensionals and actually get them to line up so that you won't see the dimensional on the other side. Hi, Betty. Nice to see you. All right, we've got all our dimensionals on here. Now let's go ahead and just take the, bring in my eggplant here that holds all of the adhesive covering. I'm going to pull off of here. So I'm first going to line this up right with the image that's on the card front. And then I'm going to, let's see, we'll do the handle here next. And then we'll layer on some additional flowers. So let's see, first we're going to have this big flower. Off to the side here. And you might want to just kind of double check where you're going to put your dimensionals to make sure that this is going to line up all right. I'm getting really lucky because I didn't peek at that first. Okay, and then we've got our sentiment label here. And this just has a dimensional on one side, excuse me, because it's going to be resting on top of this. And if you want to use a little glue dot to hold this in place on here, you sure can. And I'm going to just take that off with my take your pick tool and roll this up just a little bit and put it underneath. If I can get it off my finger. There we go. Okay, and then the last thing I'm going to do is just tie a bow. So I actually found it said take 12 inches. 10 inches works fine. Now, I don't know if I cut this before or after I figured that out, so I might be trimming this. So just kind of pulling that until I have the size loops that I want. And now I'm going to do another mini glue dot to just put this in place. And I'm just going to put it right in the center here, right on the knot. There we go. And then just trim up the edges here. Now, that is not my ribbon scissors. Somehow, in the course of this week, I lost my usual little orange scissors. You know, it'll show up, but probably not when I need it right now. So, using different scissors right now. All right, so there is the first card as it's designed. So you can see that the layering of the die cuts really creates dimension for this card and makes it very interesting. All right, so with that being said, now what to do with these cards, parts and pieces to go from one card like this to making two cards. So I'm going to bring that forward here. And the first thing that I did is I found some cardstock that matched what I was doing. And I'm thinking this was Just Jade matches this. And then I took let me just slide these parts and pieces. I kind of have them where I need them, but I want to just have to do cutting on the card base first. So then this is the one card base that I'm going to change from 1 to 2 cards. So I'm going to get out my trimmer. And what I'm going to do is make each of these sides of this card be something that's framed onto these card bases so that I won't have this as a card base anymore. And because this image, I want to make sure that I adjust how I cut this so it doesn't slide all the way one way or the other. I'm going to cut that just a little differently than I cut this side. So since I want to first take off the 5 1/4 inch, and I'm going to do it from the top, and I'm going to do it for both sections. No problem here. I'm actually going to line this up at 5 1/4 and just take that little piece off both what will be the front and back of this piece of cardstock. And I'm going to first just trim what is 4 1/4 here down to 4 inches on the back side. So I've got this 4 inch by 5 1/4 piece. And now when I do this one, I'm not just going to cut in on one side. I'm going to take that 1/4 inch and I'm actually going to take 1/8 inch off each side. So I'm going to put this one down like this. And let me look at what would be 1/4 is right here. I'm going to back it off to right here. And it's going to be very skinny. But we're going to take off the 1/8. And then I'm going to flip this over. And, you know, I have this area that is 1/4 of an inch. So this one I have to slide over an additional 1/8. And that way, when I take the 1/4 inch off of here, I've just actually continued to maintain this image being centered. So that's why I wanted to show you that, all right? So now what I have is 2 4 by 5 1/4 inch card fronts. All right, so I'm going to show you each of these cards as I build them and how I utilized actually the cards and the additional stamp set to make this from 1 into 2 cards. So first, let me put together the one that is much like the one we just made. Okay, I have that card front, and then I have what will be the alternative card front. So let's start with this one. And what I did is took many of the parts and pieces that were part of that other card, to make this first card. So I'm going to still have the accent pieces are here with the dimensionals on. So I'm still going to have that, except I'm not doing the whole purse on top of this, just the parts and pieces. And I have the sentiment label, which I'm going to stamp quick. So really the only change to this first card is going to be that the purse itself is not dimensional. Otherwise, everything else is using the parts of the kit. And I'm not going to be spending the time to do the insides because I would do it exactly the same way that we did on this other one. But let me put the pieces in place here that I am still using, which is the handle of the purse. So I'm just going to put that like I did on the last one. And then I'll add my flowers. I'm sorry, and I'm only adding a portion of the flowers because I saved the other ones for the next card. All right, and then we're going to put the sentiment on here as well. And I'll do the same thing I did before and add a mini glue dot to hold this in place. And do my bow. Sometimes those loops go a little crazy. But then by securing it at the knot, I help it to kind of lay the way that it should. So let's get another mini glue dot here. And then secure the knot right to the mini glue dot. All right, and then just do our little trimming here. And that card looks much similar to the last card, except it will be framed in this new card stock base, right? And actually, with this being retired cardstock, it's kind of great that I'm getting to use that up, but it matches enough that it looks good. And then what I would do is take a card insert of 4 5/4 and then just stamp on the inside of this like I did the last card. Okay, so that's one of the cards out of this. So now I have kind of a blank slate. And what I'm going to do with this is make a similar image of this, but I'm going to do some actual stamping. So, and masking. So let me show you what I did to prepare for this one. So we have the actual purse, and I found just some scrap paper that I had that matched this base, just a little different. So first I'm going to put that on my card front. Now, this is how you make the most of what you have in your stash or the things that you're saving. I just go look in my scraps and find something that matches what I'm trying to do. And picking that purse and saying I don't need to have that as a double image was really a nice way to get just literally the same kind of card very, very easily put in place. So now I'm going to actually glue this down. Oh, no, wait, I'm not going to glue it down. I'm going to leave it just sit there. And then I've created a mask because I'm actually going to stamp all of these florals plus have some additional things sticking up. So I'm just going to, now this was a Post-it note. The sticky part was on the top. And I just cut around here to make the mask. And then in order to do this next step, I want to hold this mask in place while I'm actually going to do some stamping. So we're going to keep this. This kind of needs to be just a little sideways. And then I'm going to hold it down with some of my Post-it note labeling and cover-up tape. Okay, so I'll have this ready to do some stamping. And then this is also going to have the bow. So I'm going to make that because I'm going to stamp the 3 extra cards when we do this, because you're going to see that I am going to create a bouquet on each of these alternative cards. And we'll do it all at the same time because I'm using multiple colors. So I'm just going to do the other pieces that go with this and set it aside right now. Oh, and I did make my own sentiment label here, and I am going to just stamp that with "For You." So it's going to look very much the same. And if you want to make it even a little more authentic, you can, punch a hole over here. I didn't have my hole punch right here, and I thought, I kind of just like that it's, without a hole is fine. All right, let's set that up there. Okay, so now I have all my parts and pieces, and I have this set up to do my stamping with the mask, okay? So we're going to just set this off to the side until we do the stamping on all 3 of our alternative cards. So I am going to just set this up here out of the way, put our second card here, and we're going to move on to another card. Oh, and you know what I forgot to do on this original card was put the background on here. So let me go ahead and do that. And that's with that extra piece of decorating, right? It's like, oh my gosh, how am I going to do this now that I have this all on here? Well, I made this mistake when I was creating these alternatives, so I'm going to tell you how to fix it when you forget to put something on. So I'm going to mask just without, actually securing this. I'm just going to set this in place, cover up that piece of cardstock, go ahead and ink this up, and do my stamping on each side of this. So we'll go there. And then I'll put this on the other side. Protect that card base. And go in the same spot on this side. And there. We've still got the decoration. Phew. So there's always a way to figure it out, right? So there's our extra card there. All right, let's now leave that right there. Okay, let me show you the next card we're going to do, which is actually project 1 on our sheet. And let's get the parts and pieces for this one. Okay, we've got an envelope again for this. And we're going to do a little stamping. And we have our card base, which now both of these are clear. They're plain, put it that way. Although this paper is a little thicker, it has a little texture, and it's got a couple like spots on it. You know, that's kind of what the design is for this. And the first thing we're going to do, as you can see, is we're going to stamp in the middle on the inside, and then we're going to use that accent design stamp before we adhere the card front. So let's go ahead, and then we also have a sentiment label we need to do. And I need to grab the different sentiment for the front here. We're going to do thank you first. So let me grab that. And we'll be able to put that right on the sentiment label for the front of the card. And this is all being done with Secret C. And let's see, flat edge to the side. We're going to put this on the color. Okay, we have our thank you. And now on the inside, we need you are loved. Between these two stamp sets, there are a lot of sentiments. So as far as this kit, once you are done with the kit, you're still going to have these sentiments to use on any of your cards going forward, which is nice. I find I really have a lot of sentiments from all my paper pumpkin kits from the past. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and stamp inside here. Do the you are loved. And then get back out that flower again. We'll do that on the top and the bottom of the sentiment. There we go. All right, and now we need to put the accent on here. And you know, we'll go a little over this, so bring up my scrap paper. And now this one we're going to take from this side. And then we're going to step it up. Oops, a little ink on the corner of my acrylic block. These are the new in colors and very juicy stamp sets. Okay, and then I'm going to step this up just a little bit. And then make another adjustment. And wipe off the corner of my block again. And then the last one. Now you could make it all the way up if you wanted to, but that's not the directions right now, right? Okay, so we have our accent. And then we're going to go ahead and just put our dimensionals on here. Well, this card is really basic, right? They gave us a lot in the die cut, for sure. And now I'm going to use small ones because this is going to go, if you can see on here, we're going to have a little ridge where we want the adhesive to be, but it's going to be flat over the front of the card front. So I'm going to put these on the flat side to kind of make it a flat card front in the end, even though it's all raised up. All right, we're just going to center this. And then we're going to add our sentiment. Hi, Carol and Patty and Diane and Kim. All right, so then we're just going to add this over to the side. And there, that is the second card completed. And wasn't that simple? And, you know, they provided so much in this die cut. All right, so that is the project card. Now we're going to turn one of these into 2 cards. So let me just grab these. Let me take this. So this time I decided to use basic gray, which was another color that was included in the instructions. So I'm going to create 2 card bases. So this is literally one piece of cardstock that I'm making into the 2 card bases that are 5.5 by 8.5, scored at 4 1/4. Okay, so we'll do the one that is most like, I guess, the parts and pieces from our original card. So when I cut this in half, remember it was a blank slate. We've got that. We're going to go ahead and we are going to stamp the secret C for that background, just like we completed for other cards. Let's just go ahead and do that again. Now where I can leave this the same, I'm doing that, and I'm using the parts of the kit. And then I'm really making the third card that comes from this the most unique, right? So we're going to go here and oops, I gotta wipe off the corner of this again. Oops, and you can't really see it there. I'll move it up so you can see better what I'm doing. Now we'll go ahead and do this 4th one. Okay. And we have to do our thank you on here again. Just need to change my stamp. Right. And then we're going to go ahead and put our dimensionals on here. So basically, this one is the same as the card design, right? But because I took the back side of the card base, we have another one to work with, which is, you know, how we're going to get an additional card out of this. And we just have a different colored card base here. Oops. Let's go ahead and glue this down. So we're creating another layer too, which is always adds more interest to the card, right? All right. Now, if you don't like the fact that this is kind of sticking up a little bit, you can take the mini glue dot, put it there, take off the adhesive, just glue it in place. Okay, so the difference between how that looks and the one that was in the kit, now where did I set that one? Is this one has the basic gray card base, and this one is just white. So you can kind of see that. I actually like it with the gray going around it, but that's the difference in these. But now we have the opportunity to make the additional card, right? So we still have this card base. Now we have another card front. There's nothing on here, so we've got a clean slate. So what I decided to do was take the, there was a teapot stamps like this, and actually make this about teapots with a floral bouquet. So I went ahead and stamped this on some designer series paper I had as a scrap, and I had 2 other scraps. So I've got this was some paper that I had laying around. So I stamped it in a color very close to that and fussy cut it. Then I have this one, just another pattern, and I did that in Lost Lagoon. And then I had another designer series paper, and I did this in Pecan Pie. And these were colors that were used as a part of this kit. So I'm going to show you how I fussy cut this, because when I looked at the handle part, I was like, oh boy. Well, first let's deal with the outside. And so I'm just going to cut right up to the colored line. I'm trying not to, a lot of times when I fussy cut, I try to leave a whole border around here. I'm not doing that with these. I really want to focus on the pots themselves up close. So we'll just fussy cut this out. And remember, you move the paper, not the scissors, to have the smoothest line possible when you're doing your fussy cutting. We'll do the little spout. And I find when I get to a spot like where I am right here with this, then I move the paper, just leave my scissors in place and get up to the next angle. And then where there's this very small V, just one down, flip it back around. And there we have that. So now for the center part, let me find my little tool I need here. Where did I put it? So either you can use a little knife that you have, or I have my poker tool here. And what I'm going to do is, let me just put a little scratch paper. Actually, I have a little piece of cardboard here. I don't want to make the hole on my table. So what I want to do is just here, I'm scraping until I can get a little hole to stick the scissors in to begin my cutting out of this center. So you got to have something that you can put your scissors in, okay? So with the pokey tool, that's how I got that in there. I know that's a very professional name, but that's what it is to me. Okay, and then what I do is I call this, like micro trimming. So I'm going to put this in here and I'm going to find a spot to go straight forward to. And then that curves out. So I'll put this in and I'm going to just do this little bitty snip. That was so little. And then I'm going to go over here and I'm going to do another micro little snip with the tip. And I'm going to keep doing these little tiny snips with just the tip of my scissors. I can make the circle. I can stay in line. If I try to move my scissors to having too much area, it's very hard in these little spots to not lose control and like cut the whole handle off. So just many little snips. Then I'm moving the whole paper, putting my snips back in here, and there. Now I've got that whole thing off of there. So it's not as bad as it felt. It's just be patient and little tiny snips. Okay, so we've got that. All right, then I am masking this because I'm going to do the bouquets are going to be on this piece of cardstock. Okay, and so I got to place the teapots where I want them after I'm going to put their mask on, which I made out of Post-it notes. Now, you can make Post-it notes. You can use masking paper if you have it. Use whatever you have, but remember to put this image up on the sticky side. This was on the top of the Post-it note. And so I'm going to place this one about right here. A little closer. Okay, and then I need my correction or labeling and cover-up tape because I have to hold that in place. Okay, so I'm going to kind of put this off to the side because I'm actually going to have another teapot on here. So now I'm going to have this one. I've got to cover that with the masking. And because the flowers that I'm going to be putting out of this pot have nothing to do with the handle, it doesn't matter that I didn't cut that out. So don't put yourself through it. And then I'm going to just pop this up as a decoration. So I don't need that to be on here. And I'm moving this pot over far enough so that I can make the flowers coming out of this one. Get that in place. Now this is going to be a part of, I'm not doing anything with that, but I'm going to put the sentiment on here that is thank you. So I'm just going to use that again. Okay. Now we're going to put the decoration underneath here once we get all of the flowers stamped. So remind me if I forget here. All right, so now we are going to set these aside because once we get stamping, we're going to be making the same floral arrangement. So I'm going to set that one up here. And it's going to be fun because we don't always do as much stamping and layering of colors as we're going to do with these. So let me just set these aside now. And we're going to go to the last card, and we'll make that project. So this one is this one. So let me get the card base out for this. And we have another envelope. And we're going to go ahead and use our bone folder here for this one. Okay, and this is another case of layering the die cuts. And this one actually has a little opening in it where we're going to be able to put this die cut in there. Isn't that fun? Okay, and so we have to stamp that. We're going to put a little detail behind here before we put this on, and then we've got flowers to put on here as well. So let's get the accent piece again and go ahead and get that on our card front. Now I have to tell you, now that I'm doing this second time around, I'm remembering to do this little design. I forgot I was able to retrofit it each time. So, you know, no worries if you forget, right? That's nice doing it the first time around. Okay, so we've got that in place. Now we're going to put our sentiment on our piece of paper here. Let's see, we're using just a note. If I can find the just a note, here it is. Okay, and we need to get our okay, and we're going to put this towards the top of the sentiment. There we go. And now we're going to do our dimensional thing again. So with the typewriter, we've got 4 of these. Then we've got our just a note, and we want to do these up at the top. And we've got our flowers. Okay, so we'll layer first our typewriter on here. And then we're going to go ahead and put in our note that's in the process of being typed and just slide it right in. Okay, and then we're going to add the flowers that we have. So we've got that one, and then these 2. All right, so then we have that. And, you know, the inside is going to be stamped the same way, and it's going to say, to say thank you. So it's just a note to say thank you. So that's the card as it was designed for the project. And now we're going to go ahead and use the same card base to make 2 different ones. And so this time I picked card stock again, and this one is Lost Lagoon, which is another color. Oops, that's used in this set. So let's go ahead and just make these 2 card bases. I hope that you're seeing just how easy this was, and basically outside of these cool flower arrangements we're going to stamp up, a lot of it was using what was already in the kit, right? And that's really easy to do, and it doesn't take a lot out of your stash, but you're going to get extra cards, which is cool. All right, so let's start with the one that looks mostly the same. And all I did is we're using this as if the paper is already in the typewriter. We are not double, die cutting with dimension on here. We're leaving it flat, but we are going to use the design to add a little something to this, right? Just like we did with the other card. Boy, I tell you, that one corner loves to go on that ink. All right, so I'm just going to do it on this side, just like we did before. And this side. Okay, so we've got that detail. And then we're going to do just a note. And we're going to glue this on the front, and we'll put our card insert on the inside and do the same stamping that we did on the project card, right, or would have done. And this is still a beautiful card, but now it has the frame of Lost Lagoon around it. Okay. So then the last one to use the back side, which is just totally plain, right? We're going to first do the accent. After I found another scrap. You know how this has this on the bottom? Look at it, I almost found one exactly. So I'm going to replicate that. Just glue this on the card front. Okay, now I know where I need to be stamping my accent here because I have this in place, and I'm just going to go up a little bit like the regular card did. And now we have that accent all the way across. And I have to do my just a note. And I have what would have been that extra die cut piece that I'll be putting on here. But the first thing we're going to do with this is I have another mask. And I'm going to get this in place because I want to do a bouquet of flowers above the typewriter, just like on the project, right? And then I'm going to take another piece of that Post-it note, and I'm going to keep this off to the side here. And I'm going to decide where I want to put my typewriter. probably right to the top of that design. And then I'm going to do it on the bottom here because I'll be putting the bouquet on the top. All right, so now we've got all of the stamping done with the Secret C, and now we're ready to literally do some bouquet stamping on all 4 of these cards. So let me close this other ink and bring down these other cards. And if I were doing this for all of them, I would put all of them out on my desktop here. If I decided to make alternatives out of the whole kit, I'd have 3 of each of these kind of cards. Or if I just did it like I'm doing today, 2 of them, but I've already done them. So let's just kind of lay these out so you can see them. Yeah, maybe I'll just kind of put them up on the top here and then just pull them down onto my... Now these, remember, we're using photopolymer stamps, so I am going to be using my Pierce mat as I make these individually. I'm going to keep the, let's see here, I'm going to just keep the extra parts and pieces that go with these on top of the right bases so we can match them up when we're done. And there I had, where did that little note go? There it is. Okay, that goes with that one. All right, so let's go ahead now and start our bouquets. And I'm going to show you how I want to do this and how I'm going to do it a little bit more quickly by doing them all together. So I am going to start with fresh freesia. And I kind of just took a look at the colors that were somewhat similar. And then I decided that I would use the same flower stamp for each color for all of the different bouquets. So first on this one with the purse, I've got my fresh freesia, and I'm going to go, and actually there ends up being the opportunity to put 3 layers of this coming out of this purse. All right, so that's that purse. Now we're going to do the teapots. And with the size of the teapots, they're only going to get 1 stamp of this color flower. And then for the typewriter, we're going to do, I think it's just a pair of these. So we're going to go off to the side here. And then on this one. All right, so now that color's done. So now I'm going to do Poppy Parade. And I need to find my flower. So this is the flower that was used with all the sentiments, but it's actually tall and skinny. So it kind of adds some variety from what is kind of this more short and squat. So let's take this one and add these to the bouquet. And I want this to have a little more height. Okay, so now we've got that in there. Let's go ahead and do the teapot. So this one I'm going to have to lower this down and make it a little shorter, but it's still going to be the highest one in the teapot. Okay. And now with this one, I'm going to do this in, 3 again. Okay. So do you see how doing these at the same time really helps from, a time saver perspective? So that's why I'm saving them for the end. Okay, now as we're going to use a little darling duckling. And we've got 2 size little daisies here. So I'm going to start with the largest one first. I always go from my largest to my smallest stamps. Okay, so let's fill in the purse first. And some of them are going on top of things, some are going aside of them. And there is no right and wrong. The only thing I'm trying to do is balance that there's a little bit of this color all over my bouquet. Now the thing that I'll remind you is I have a smaller daisy. These kind of feel like daisies or flowers that I'm going to fill in too. So I don't have to get it all with the larger one. So what was really fun about this was actually getting back to doing a little more stamping. And I know some people, feel like we don't get enough of this. And I would agree. Sometimes I get really wrapped up in, designer series paper and doing a sentiment and maybe doing a die cut of something. And I forget how much fun just, using our stamps and what we can do with this. Okay, so there we go. Okay, so now I'm just going to trade this out for the smaller little flower. And I'm going to keep them the same color. I could, bring into like Timid Tiger or something as another color, but I decided just to have 2 different sizes of the same color. Now, as far as like relaxing and no stress, this to me is that. Because you can do whatever you want to do. No right, no wrong. And when I was doing the first ones of these, to create this to share with you, I have to say it was quite a sense of satisfaction. I thought, why don't I do this a little bit more? right. And then the last thing I'm going to be adding to these is I have a little leaf that will add green into all this. All right, so let's get the green leaves here. And I probably should have picked a different color. Old olive is pretty dark for this, so you're going to see that when I use this, I'm going to stamp off every time. I think the old olive as it is would be way too dark. So I just stamp off and then add it. So that's also, a way you can get two different colors is by stamping off when you're using the ink that you have. Get a little bit more out of it then. Okay. Can't wait to do the big reveal for you. Oh, there's a dark one. I knew I was going to blow it. Oh. That's just a very healthy outer leaf. That's what we'll say. I better, just to balance it off, put another dark one down there. There, then it'll kind of look like it was meant to be. Okay, let's go to the other teapot here. Make sure I do a couple dark ones on here too. Okay, and let's do the last one here. Now the nice thing is I am going to have some beautiful sets of cards, either to use myself or to share with someone else. And to just do this with your kit all in one setting is, really possible. So it was fun. All right, there we go. So let's get this out of our way. And I do need to do that accent stamping with Secret C on two of these. So let's do that with these others that we need to do that. So first on this one, I am going to change where I have my tape holding down the teapot. I'm going to put it up in the flowers so that I can put that decoration down lower. Okay. So I'm first going to do it down around the base of the teapots first. So let's get that and grab this here and do this. Okay, we've got that. Now we're going to do it where this other one is living. Okay, and then I want to do a little section up here where the sentiment will go because it's kind of white on white. And that will help it to stand out some more. All right, so we've got that one done, and then we have to do it around the purse here, and I think just taking that off will have the right area that we need to do for this one. All right, now we're ready for the big reveal and to put our final cards together. So let's start here first with the purse. I'll take this off. And I saved my mats for when I need them again. Let's go ahead. I want to pop this up. And just follow your stamping. There, we've got that. Now remember, we still have some of the other pieces we decided to save to add more dimensions to this. So let's go ahead and put those in place. And you can tell the shadows are on here where this is supposed to go. So follow the shadows. And I'm going to put the ribbon on here, actually the baker's twine, with this mini glue dot right in the center. And I also thought if you have those brush stroke butterflies, they'd be a beautiful embellishment to this alternative card. But wasn't that pretty and a great way to use our stamps and inks? So that's another alternative. Now let's go ahead and put the teapot one together. So we're going to take this off. And I'm going to make this 3D in another way. So this one is going to get glued straight down. And then we have another designer series paper that we cut out for this one. Then we're going to pop up the white one here. So let me grab a couple of dimensionals. And then we're going to do our sentiment on here. So we'll put this so that it's popped up. And then we've got our sentiment to pop up. And see how just, doing that little bit of stamping behind that helps that to stand out. Now let's go ahead and just attach this to the front. How that basic gray, I did this crooked, didn't I? Too many crickets. All right, there, that's better. So with the extra stamp set, I was able to make a card. Basically, this is the back of one of those card bases, but it has that little texture in it, but looks really pretty with the basic gray background, and then using just scraps, guys, and making the fussy cutting. So that is, the other one where we made the bouquet. Now let's just put together the third one. So this one, oh boy, let's shut that alarm off. Okay, so we'll take this part off, save our mask. We're going to pop this up, and we're going to pop up just a note. That doesn't want to come off. There we go. Okay, so now we're ready to put our typewriter on the bottom of our flowers here. And feed in our piece of paper for just a note. And go ahead and mount this. All right, I just got to close my glue here. And then there is our third bouquet that we made that used a back of the card and an extra die cut, right? So out of just what should have been 9 cards. We're going to look at all of these. So this one, let me set these in the piles. So with this, what would have been our first card here? This is what the original looked like, right? And then we added this one, and this one, and this one. So what would have been 3 cards is now 5 cards. They look very similar, but I just used some of my scraps and did some extra stamping. So that is the card 1. I'm going to put this off to the side here. And then card 2, we had our original. And then we made 4 more. And I don't think we've lost a thing. I think actually I love some of these that have more of the stamping on here. And using just that little teapot stamp. Wow. And then the flowers. Okay. And then the last one, here was our original, right? We had this beautiful envelope and we had this. And it became an additional 4 cards instead of just 2. And they look very similar, but I think a little extra special. So what would have been 9 is now 15 cards, all out of one kit. And really, it was just cutting the card bases apart, splitting up the die cuts that were in the kit, and then figuring out how to use the stamps that went with this kit. So I'm looking to see if you have any questions, and remind you that, you know, Paper Pumpkin is something that can show up coming your way once a month for $27. And look at, I got 15 cards for $27. So less than $2 per card. And aren't these something you would be proud to put in the mail to your family and friends? So let's see what's going on. I'll tell you, the technology today has really been a challenge. So I apologize for being a little late. I'm so glad for those of you that could still tune in. If you watch this on the replay, don't hesitate to add to the comments. If you've liked what you've seen today, if you give me a thumbs up or a heart, that would be grand. And if you want to share this with any of your friends so that they can also benefit from some card design examples, I would really appreciate it. So with that, I'm thinking that 2 weeks from now, there's going to be a Fun Fold Fest online card class coming up. Next week, I am actually going to be in a 3-day class learning how to make classes better for all of you. So there will be a video broadcast that is been pre-recorded that will be on my channel at 1 o'clock on Wednesday, whether it be here on Facebook or YouTube. So please still tune in, but know that I will see you live the following week for class and for a regular card making lesson. So take care, my stamping friends, and happy stamping. Bye-bye now.